So what mind games do they play with your emotions? See, narcissists and empaths, they seem to find each other, right? Because they see you, they spot you, they know that you are this kind person. They know you're a good person. They know that you feel like you can help them, that you can love them back to health. You see that they're like hurting, and maybe you can fill that black hole within them. You can't run the other way. It's not going to help. Okay. Stop thinking that you can do that. All right. So one of the things that they do, number one, is they gaslight. They gaslight you. You know what gaslighting is? Gaslighting is they make you question your reality. They make you question your sanity, because they actually make you question your own mind, like your own senses, your own eyesight, the things that you're seeing with your own brain, your own eyes, or your own ears. Here's what I mean by this: your own reality. I'm going to give you an example. I didn't know you were going away this weekend. You never told me that. Oh, yeah. We had a whole conversation about that. You agreed. And what? I don't remember that. Oh, yeah. We talked about that and you agreed. And you have no memory of that, but they'll make you believe that you did. And you have no memory of that whatsoever. That's gaslighting. And I know I've mentioned this before, but for those of you who maybe haven't seen some of my other videos, it comes from the movie Gaslight from the 30s, where the husband was actually trying to make the wife think that she was crazy. And what he would do is blow out gas lights, and she would say, "Wasn't that just lit?" And he would say, no, it wasn't. And he was literally trying to make her think she was crazy. And that's where it comes from. And that's what gaslighting is. Okay. So gaslighting is literally trying to make somebody question their own reality by thinking that they're crazy. Okay, so that's what gaslighting is, and that's what number one is. And if you want to know more about narcissistic gaslighting phrases, you can definitely check out my video on that. And if you are so ready to shut down gaslighting, put "shut them down" in the comments below, because it is so insidious. And it is literally something that all narcissists do. It is definitely something that they do across the board. For whatever reason, it is part of their playbook, especially covert narcissists, for whatever reason. And one of the things that they do, by the way, with gaslighting is they'll take like part of something that's kind of like a partial truth, and they'll sort of spin it into something so it sort of seems true. And so it really kind of makes you question your reality in that way. It's so really icky. So definitely shut them down, right? All right. So number two is projection. And projection is accusing the empath of what they themselves are doing. I have a whole video, by the way, on how narcissists tell on themselves. And this is definitely something that they do, but this is a way that they definitely play with empaths' emotions this way. They are accusing you of what they themselves are doing. And it is so confusing. And it is definitely one of the games that they play. So projection and deflection is definitely something that they do, by the way, when they get caught in a lie. So that's number two. Number three is diversion. And diversion is something that they also do when they're trying to get you off track, when they are being attacked personally. And so this is something that you definitely see when you're trying to talk to them about something, where they will say, "I don't like the way you said that. I don't like how you said that. I don't like when you brought that up. How come you brought that up then?" And then the whole conversation, instead of being about what you wanted to talk about, ends up all being about when you brought it up, how you brought it up, your tone, all about that, or that you came in at that time, or that you were wearing that coat, or how you hung up that coat, or what you were that you brought in that particular thing at that time, or how you walked into the room. And it's all about something else. And you never get to the point of what you wanted to talk about ever. So that's number 3, which is diversion. Number 4 is triangulation, which is where they bring in third parties to validate their point of view or to attack you. And this is something that they do a lot. And I talk about this in my videos on their favorite catchphrases, which is everybody else thinks or no one else thinks. And this is really, really to isolate you and make you feel like you are just the most stupid person or the most horrible person, or you're awful in so many ways. And they are the smartest and they are the best, and you might as well just give it up. They don't even necessarily have to bring in that person to actually bring in that person, but they invoke that other person's name in some way, or people. Okay. So triangulation. And so you believe that there's this like other army of people against you that believes that you're awful and believes that they're wonderful. So that's triangulation. And number 5 is victim playing. So pretending like they're the ones that are suffering in such a bad state, and especially if it's at your hands, like you caused it, making you feel guilty, especially if you ever did anything bad to them, just playing this victim. Covert narcissists are very, very famous for this at all times, really, really playing this suffering victim person that you have to either take care of them, feel guilty. So victim playing is definitely a mind game that narcissists play with emotions. And no one loves me, or you don't love me, or you don't take care of me. So victim playing is definitely a mind game that narcissists play with emotion. All right, so let's dive in. Free content right here. 7 ways that narcissists use tricks on your mind that actually do work on you unless you know. All right, so what do? The first thing they do, and this kind of starts off in the love bombing phase, by the way, the phase where they're trying to draw you in because they need their narcissistic supply, right? They need that supply because that's what they're looking for, which is anything to feed their ego. And that's all about that. And remember, when you're building strategy, when you're building leverage against them, you got to like keep all of this in mind. And you can't use regular negotiation tactics when you're dealing with narcissists. They don't work. All right. So when you're dealing with them, you got to remember, okay, they start off with love bombing. It's one of the things that they start off with is this whole like mirroring thing, which works actually in regular negotiation with normal people. But the reason why they do this is because they do know that this sort of works. So what they do is they kind of subtly copy you. They subtly sort of mimic you. They subtly mirror you. I dealt with 2 covert narcissists in my life who targeted me, which was pretty awful. And they both did this. They both sort of copied me. And so they mirror you, they copy what you're doing, and they try to subtly mirror your body language and all of that because they want to seem similar to you. It's a mind game that actually works at the beginning because they want to seem perfect for you. They're very good at reading people. They're very good at studying people. All right. So that's number 1, just so you know. And it's something that you can do back too, by the way, when you are negotiating with them. I talk about ethically manipulating the manipulator, something that you can do too. All right. So that's number 1. Number 2, one of the things that some of them do is they play the victim. victim. Some of them will really have this thing where you can seriously play the violin, where they'll find a way that they can blame every bad thing that's ever happened in the world on what's happened to them, like, oh, this awful thing. And so they will definitely play the victim, or they're so sick all the time, or they're this or they're that, so that they can play the victim, right? So that's number two. Number three, I definitely wanted to get to this one because the passive aggressive game. This is a big favorite of the covert narcissist. And if you want to know more about covert narcissism in relationships, I do have a whole video on this. I did have to deal with a covert narcissist myself, or a couple of them. And they're really, really underhanded. And in some ways, I think the worst of them, because you really don't spot them right away. So definitely check out my video on that. They use gaslighting, they forget things, they don't follow through. It's very hard to pin down that it was back to them. The underhanded sabotage, very, like I said, passive aggressive. Oh, I didn't realize. Oh, I didn't mean to. I thought you meant this. Oh, I was going to. That sort of thing. And it's pretty awful. So that's the passive aggressive game. That's number three. Number four is the silent treatment game. This is also a very common game that narcissists will play. It's easy for them. All they have to do is just act like nothing happened. They ignore certain things. They respond only to what they want to respond to. They'll respond to certain text messages, for example. They ignore other text messages. And again, this could actually be in conjunction with the passive aggressive, by the way. Oh, I didn't see that message. I meant to respond to that one. Oh, I didn't mean to not respond to that one. Oh, I didn't see that. Oh, I didn't get that text. That sort of thing. So that's number four. Number five is the withhold game. Where they just withhold certain information from you. I had to deal with this with the business partner that I was dealing with. Where I would find out that she knew certain things, had information on better things. It just was very frustrating, very maddening, not telling you that they received information, not telling you that they talked to people. It's very, very frustrating. Number six is the flying monkey game, another mind game that they play, where they will line up third parties against you to make it seem like you are the crazy one, to make it seem like that other people are believing their lies, to make it seem like you're very isolated, to make it seem like you don't have any friends, or that there's this army of people ganging up against you, like that you're being bullied. It's like you lose your footing, you lose your way, and you really lose a sense of yourself. And it starts to steal your soul after a while because of these flying monkeys. So that's number six. And number seven is the guilt game. This can happen in a number of different ways. Guilt for not spending enough time with you. They play on your vulnerabilities, playing the woe is me game, a whole lot of different ways. And this, again, can also be in conjunction with the victim game, or the passive aggressive game, or the withhold game. And there's a number of different ways that this could go, but all part of the mind games that they can play. Have you ever met somebody, they started off to be the most charming, charismatic person you've ever met in your life, then they turned out to be your worst nightmare, and then when you go to negotiate with them, they're a living hell? Well, I developed something called the Slave Method of Negotiating with Narcissists, and it has helped tens of thousands of people in more than 150 countries win, go from feeling drained and defeated to getting the outcomes they want. And the reason why it works is because I spent more than 20 years studying narcissism as a trial attorney, and now I'm here to help you win too, and also take your suffering and turn it into your superpower. Take your pain and turn it into profit, peace, and purpose as a highly specialized high conflict negotiation coach. If you want to learn how to do it, then just go to RebeccaZung.com/apply and I will show you how. All right, 7 mind games played by narcissists. Watch all the way to the end so that you can get all 7. Number 1, all narcissists do this. Covert, malignant, grandiose, whatever kind of narcissist it is, you know it. Gaslighting. They love this one. They love it. It's their favorite. One of the most common types of games played by the narcissist is Gaslighting, named for the movie or play from the 30s called Gaslight. In that movie, the husband was trying to make the wife think that she was crazy. And so he was blowing out gaslights, and she would go, "Wasn't that just lit?" And he'd go, "No, no, it wasn't." Trying to make her mind play tricks on her. And that's what gaslighting is. It's a form of psychological manipulation in which the narcissist attempts to make their target or their victim, or whatever word you want to use, think that they're going insane. You didn't hear what you heard. You didn't see what you saw. The conversation that you thought you had, you didn't have. The thing you think you're seeing, you're not seeing. That's what they do. They're trying to make you question your own memories, your own perception of reality, your own sanity at the end of the day. And honestly, when this is happening to you over and over and over again by somebody you are supposed to be able to trust, maybe even love, by somebody who comes at you with authority, a lot of times you do start to question yourself a lot of times. And a lot of times they tie it just enough to reality, just enough to certain events that you start to wonder, wait a minute, am I thinking, wait a minute. You do start to wonder if you're imagining things, and you do start to wonder if you're going crazy. And so that's number 1 is gaslighting. And so you have to start documenting things. You have to start writing things down, start journaling things, and start pushing back and start going, no, that's not how it happened. That is not what was said. That is not the way the events took place. All right. That's number 1 is gaslighting. If you heard it with your ears, if you saw it with your eyes, then that's the way it happened. Trust yourself, trust your gut. Number 2 is playing the victim. They like to turn things around so that they become the victim, especially if they are under attack for their own behavior. They like to make a lot of noise so that it makes it look like they're the ones who's the victim and you're the one who is the problem. You're the one, or somebody else is, so that they don't have to be culpable. They don't have to take responsibility then for their own behavior. And that way, somebody else is the one that's causing all of the problems. And they even try to make other people feel guilty. And a lot of times it works. A lot of times it works. And they can even get marriage counselors to believe that the other person is the problem, third parties, blind monkeys, all kinds of people to believe that other people are the problem. File false allegations, use the court system, get the judges to believe, get the mediators to believe. They can play the victim to all sorts of people. They really can make it seem like somehow they are the victim in the relationship if the other person doesn't somehow change their behavior in some way or do something, that they're being treated poorly, that they're being treated unfairly. And it can happen very easily because Of course, narcissists are extremely easily slighted. I mean, the wind blows the wrong way and they're easily slighted. You can not even slight them. You can say nothing about them. It can be a conversation that's being had over here. It doesn't even have anything to do with them. And suddenly it's about them. And now they're the victim. They can really cause a lot of trouble in this particular game where they're being the victim. The whole it's not fair thing. They're very good at the it's not fair thing and being the victim. So that's number two. Number three is love bombing. It's another big mind game that they play. And this is a very misleading word because there is no love involved in love bombing. It's all about manipulation. It's all about getting you to love them, but there's no love happening in the other direction. It's all about getting you to be charmed, to think that there's something special. They make you believe that they think that you're special, that you're incredible, and that you're the most amazing human being that ever walked the planet, even though they don't think anything of you other than what are you going to eventually be able to do for them? How are you going to be able to make them look? Are you going to be able to give them adulation? Are you going to be able to service them in some way? What are you going to give them? Because they want to give you as little as possible. They want to create a sense of dependency on them, just in the sense of they don't want you to have to go outside the relationship for anything else. I mean, they want you to get all of your relationship, needs met in that relationship, except that oddly, they don't want to have to give you anything in that relationship. You're supposed to not go outside the relationship for anything, but you won't get anything from them either. So you just won't get any relationship needs met at all. You're just supposed to serve them. And then they're just going to get withdrawals from you. So at the end of the day, you get nothing from anybody, and then you're just supposed to serve them. So and they'll just treat you however they want to treat you. They'll give you as little as possible. They'll be back and forth, and then if they give you anything at all, then you're supposed to think that they're just amazing for doing that for you. I mean, if they give you coffee in the morning, then look at that, I brought you coffee, look at this, look how wonderful I am, that sort of thing. So love bombing at the beginning is what they do to shower affection upon you. And this is a business partnership too. They do the same thing if it's a business partnership as well, in order to gain your trust, in order to kind of groom you, condition you to get you into their world so that they can eventually withdraw that attention and affection and get that back from you. All right. So that's number three. Number four is playing hot and cold. And in this game, this mind game played by the narcissist, they alternate between giving you that attention and affection and love, and then just abruptly shutting it off and ghosting you and not returning texts or not returning calls or not returning any sense of affection or whatever. And they do this to create that feeling of insecurity and anxiety in their victims, in their targets, to try to keep you guessing, to try to keep you feeling insecure, to keep you off balance, and make you feel confused and make you feel off guard, and just to control you, because it's sort of evil and maniacal, and they kind of get off on it in a way as well. And they want you to come back, and they want you to kind of beg, and they want you to kind of feel like, oh, please, 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 and then when you do beg, they want to be able to rebuff you, and they want to be able to say no, and they want to be able to reject you. And they enjoy that whole process too. And then they enjoy the process of taking you back and giving you the affection again, and they like that, and they enjoy the drama of it too. Narcissists enjoy a dramatic relationship. They like all that craziness. They don't like just being even. So that's another mind game that they play, is this hot and cold. So that's number 4. Number 5 is triangulation. And that is, another name for that is flying monkeys and to third parties. And they try to line up people against you or for them in order to create this divide between you and other people and make you feel bullied. It's a form of bullying. It's to make you feel isolated. It's to make you feel like other people are against you, or make you feel like they've got other people for you. And there's so many different ways that they can do this, to make you feel like other people are having more important conversations with them, or more substantive conversations with them, or what are you talking about with this other person, or what are you telling this other person, make you feel like you can't trust other people, or make you feel like these other people are on their side or believing their lies, and making you feel like no one else is going to believe you. So why bother? Why bother trying to get anybody else to believe your side? All of these kinds of things. And so everyone else thinks this and no one else thinks that. Those are the kinds of things that they do. And it's to make you believe that you shouldn't bother to try to go up against them, because it's going to be a waste of time. Again, it's a mind game. And a lot of times it's not nearly as bad as you think. And a lot of times the flying monkeys have no idea that they're being used as flying monkeys. By the way, they use judges in this way, counselors in this way, mediators in this way. And all I'm going to tell you is it ain't over till it's over. And I've seen what seems like a foregone conclusion not be a foregone conclusion. So don't think that it's a foregone conclusion unless the end is actually the end. So you never know. You never know. So that's that. The next one is discrediting. Again, it's a similar kind of thing as triangulation, but this one is even like a step further, where they play this mind game by actually spreading false allegations, by actually filing false pleadings with the court system, or actually putting things out there on social media, or saying things about the person to coworkers, really spreading things about the person, maybe true or not true, but really trying to discredit the person by saying things that maybe aren't favorable, maybe bringing something up about somebody's past, maybe saying things that might make other people question the person's abilities, question the person's intelligence. And it can be quite damaging at times, especially if it has to do with, their work or their parenting abilities, things like that. Just keep in mind that there are ways to combat that when it comes to work, when it comes to parenting. And again, I go back to my SLAY methodology: strategy, leverage, anticipate, focus on you. Make sure you're documenting, make sure you have a strong strategy, make sure you're using your leverage, make sure that you are using every single possible tool that you have in your hands. There are always ways to get what I call the cream to rise to the top, because you can, and pivot that, So, step 1, don't run. Step 2, make a U turn. Step 3, break free. And that's how you right that ship. And that's how you get things to turn around. And that's how you get things to pivot. Don't get things to shift. You don't get the dynamic to shift by running away completely. That is not how you get that dynamic to shift. Remember that narcissists are way more afraid of you than you are of them. You get that dynamic to shift by not running, by turning it all around. Okay, so do not take that bait. And I want you to put that in the comments right now. Don't take the bait. Don't take the bait, because you can win. You can turn this around. I've helped many thousands of people do that. I can help you do the same. So don't take the bait. And if you haven't gotten the Crush My Negotiation Prep Worksheet, I don't know what you're waiting for. Get it at crushmydeal.com. And if you are struggling and you need help with therapy, I do have a partnership with BetterHelp, and you can go to betterhelp.com/Rebecca Zung. We do have a partnership with BetterHelp, and they do pay us commissions. It doesn't cost you any extra. We just wanted to have a partnership with somebody that we could put out there and say, hey, we're supported by this, this organization. We trust them, and we wanted to be able to have something to offer you. So make sure that you get the support that you need. And we also do have a private Facebook group, which is Narcissist Negotiators with Rebecca Zung. So join my free private Facebook group if you want that extra support as well. All right, let's go to the last one. What is the last thing that narcissists do? What is the last mind game that is played by narcissists? This is the one that they all do, and that is triggering you. And this is part of my A in SLAY. Strategy, leverage, anticipate, and focus on you. Anticipate that they're going to try to trigger you at every turn because they love that. So anticipate that and be 2 steps ahead of them. That's what I always say. Anything goes when it comes to getting a reaction out of you. They love it. A narcissist's ultimate goal is to control you. And so therefore, triggering you is a tactic they use to get you to lash out. Okay, that's what they want you to do, because number one, it gives them supply. Number two, they'll use your emotional reaction against you, right? And so remember that as long as they're getting that supply, they're never going to leave you alone, ever. So do not take that bait. As I said, don't allow that. Okay, don't take the bait. They will look for your weak points. They will look for ways. They will look for your Achilles heel. They will strike at it. They're like sharks with blood in the water. They're going to look for ways to strike you. So 7 mind games they play that they hope that you won't figure out. The first one is the silent treatment. So now, if you try to do this to them, of course, they go absolutely ballistic, especially during negotiations, right? They will show up. They literally will storm the gates. They do this to control you. And they do this, by the way, whether it's a romantic situation or a business partnership, because I was in a business partnership with a narcissist. Those of you who are out there dealing with a narcissist in a non-romantic situation, you know that this is true too. They use the silent treatment as a form of control. And what's really maddening is that they will blow up your phone. They will blow up your email. You know that thing is stuck to them like glue. You know that they never leave their phone anywhere. It's always right next to them, but yet they won't respond. They use it as a form of punishment and control. And it's incredibly painful. They use it as a way to make you feel isolated, to make you feel unloved, unworthy, undeserving, and to play with your mind. It's one of those games that they play that they hope you'll never figure out. So that's number one. Number two, of course, gaslighting. I mean, it's the mother of all the things that they do. It's a huge form of emotional abuse. I don't even have enough time in this video. I could sit here all day and go into all the forms of gaslighting gaslighting that they go into. I mean, all the types of narcissists use this, malignant, grandiose, it doesn't matter the type of narcissist that we're talking about. They all use gaslighting as a form of emotional abuse. But really, what gaslighting is, in its purest form, it's a way of making you question your reality. That's what gaslighting is. It's basically saying what you think you're seeing with your eyes, what you think you heard with your ears, what you are experiencing with your senses doesn't exist. You're delusional. You're crazy. So they attempt to make you question your reality. So they deny things, they accuse you of things, they accuse you of false allegations. They manipulate situations so that you feel like you are losing your mind. They may deny things in text messages, deny things in emails. They deny things directly to your face. I mean, they were literally, you could show them something and they will directly say, no, that is not what it is that you are showing them. You can actually go, well, maybe I'm not seeing this correctly, even if you are. I mean, they could say something's not blue, even if you're staring at something that's blue. And if you've been dealing with a narcissist long enough, you might go, maybe it's not blue. Maybe I'm seeing purple. Maybe it's actually red. I mean, you'll actually start to question your own reality, because that's how crazy you can start to feel. It starts to cause trauma on you physically. So gaslighting is a real thing. It's something that they all do, and it can really take its toll on you in a number of different ways. And as I said, I don't have enough time here to go into all of the different ways that they use gaslighting, but gaslighting is definitely one of the mind games that they use. Number 3 is projection. I call it projection and deflection, lying and denying, projection and deflection, but projection is definitely one of the things that they use. Oh my goodness. I had an employee, one of my paralegals who used to work for me, that was a master of projection. Boy, nothing was ever her fault. It was always somebody else's. It was always something else that was going on in her life. Someone else had to take the fall. Someone else had to take the blame for all the different things that went wrong. But it's a defense mechanism that narcissists use to cover up their inadequacies, their irresponsibilities, their wrongdoings. So they project their flaws, their shortcomings, their wrongdoings onto someone else. And most of the time, by the way, it's not the third party, it's you. It's good old fashioned you. It can be a form of gaslighting, by the way. So the next one is love bombing. This is one of the first types of mind games that narcissists will play. This is usually your intro to them, unless it's your family member, your parent, or something like that. If this is somebody that you met along the way, this is your intro to them, right? This is how you get to know them. This is, sometimes called the idealization phase. Oftentimes it's referred to as the love bomb. Even if it's not a romantic situation, it's still oftentimes referred to as the love bomb. But this is the phase where, you see the charming version, the charismatic version of that narcissist. And by the way, they whip this version back on out when they need to, when they think that you are onto them, might leave them. If they need to, this comes out with the future fake or whatever. The fabulous version, the perfect version, the one that makes you feel like you are the most special, incredible human being on the planet. They're really good at this version, but what they're doing is they're mirroring you, they're reading you, they're looking to see what it is that you want, and they're reflecting that back to you. So that's why that version seems so great, because that's what's really happening with that love bomb. So it's not really a real version. It's a totally fake version of a person that they ideally think that you want to see, and then they reflect that back to you. So the next one is triangulation. So this is often referred to as the flying monkeys. This is where they line up third parties. Covert narcissists are excellent at this. Excellent at this. And this is where they get their little friends, their little minions to make it seem like that you are the only one who thinks a certain way, and everyone else thinks that, they're wonderful, and you are the only one that thinks that they're terrible or whatever. Don't think that there's some kind of healthy relationship going on with these third parties. There's not. It's probably a situation that's very similar to the situation that you have. Many times I used to think that the third parties, these flying monkeys, were in on it all the time. Many times they're not. They're just part of the narcissist manipulation, and they don't even realize it. One of the things that I kind of figured out when I was dealing with the narcissists in my life is stay away from all of them, because it's all bad energy. It's all a whole bunch of drama, trauma, and chaos that you don't need. And especially if the narcissist has them under their spell in some way, it definitely is not worth it. Especially because narcissists have this tendency to want to pit people against each other. You don't really want to be caught up in that whole situation. I would just stay out of the whole deal myself. I would say, wish them well, but over there. Okay. We are working our way through 7 mind games that narcissists play that they hope that you don't figure out. Next one is discarding people. Narcissists love to do the discard. And by the way, they discard and then they come. It's sort of like this spongy thing. They discard and then they snap you back in, because as soon as you discard, they don't actually want to discard, because if there's any supply to be had, they snap you back in, because they discard you and you go, well, I don't really want to be discarded. And you get over it. And it's like a horrible, it's painful and it's awful. And then you go, well, all right, let me live my life and I'll deal with it and whatever. And then here they come with their Hoover thing. You don't need it. So, but that's what they do. They discard and then they're like sticky fingers back in again. But they discard if there's nothing left, if there's no more useful purpose, if there's no more juice in that battery. It's super painful. And it can be super abrupt, and you can leave you feeling very hurt, very confused, very abandoned feeling, very isolated. And it's horrible because obviously, you've actually got feelings involved over here, but they don't have that same level of capacity to have those feelings. It can be awful. It's time to move on when you've dealt with that. And so I'm just going to say, put in the comments, move on, just move on. Don't look back, move on. We've worked our way through 6 of them. There's one more that I wanted to make sure that you got. This is the biggest one that I see narcissists do. And this is especially prominent in covert narcissists, who I think tend to be the worst ones in relationships, the worst ones, because these are the stealthiest types of narcissists. This is the type of narcissist that I had to deal with in 2 different instances where they targeted me, and it's extremely painful. It's extremely toxic. And that is, they play the victim. The reason why this is extremely difficult is because the rest of the world may actually see this person as a victim. So this is very different than a grandiose narcissist where, the person is extremely strong, extremely boisterous and bragging, comes along and demands the best table in the restaurant or holds court wherever they go. And so people don't feel sorry for that person necessarily. If this is a covert narcissist or a person that's playing the victim, and people actually do see this person as a victim, and especially as a victim of you, and they're going around telling everybody how horrible you were to them, even if you did nothing to them, it's super frustrating at the very least, and can be very, very painful and hurtful and harmful at the worst. And narcissists are excellent at playing the victim card. They make people feel guilty, not just you feel guilty, but they make others around them feel guilty, or they make others around them think that you should feel guilty, or others around them feel sorry for them. And they use this to control people. Then they gain sympathy. There's a huge payoff. They'd rather have the sympathy seen as a victim and get this sympathy than have a relationship, a real relationship with people that they should be wanting to have a relationship with, because that payoff is so huge. It seems like every celebrity has access to GLP-1s these days, but what about the rest of us? Now you don't need to be rich or famous to access personalized, tailored weight loss solutions just for you. Through Hers, you can take control of your health. Hers is changing women's healthcare by providing access to holistic weight loss solutions, including GLP-1 treatments, with the same active ingredients as Ozempic and Wegovy, oral medication kits, and more. You'll connect with a medical provider who will develop a plan based on your needs. And if prescribed, your medication is included as part of a doctor-designed weight loss program, complete with ongoing care, online support, all at no additional cost. Plans start at just $199 a month with a 12-month subscription, paid up front, and your treatment ships directly to your door. So if you've been struggling with weight loss and you want to find the right solution just for you, start your free online visit today at forhers.com/negotiate. That's forhers.com/negotiate for your personalized weight loss treatment options. Hers is not available everywhere. Compounded programs are not FDA approved or verified for safety, effectiveness, or quality. Prescription required. Restrictions apply. Wegovy and Ozempic are not compounded. Hi, I'm Rebecca Zung, and I am an attorney. I'm also the best-selling author of Slay the Bully, How to Negotiate with a Narcissist and Win. And I want you to stop the mind games of this narcissist so that you can break free. I've helped so many people go from lives of drama, trauma, and chaos to break free and find their lives of freedom, possibility, and purpose. I want you to have this too. And if you are new here, I invite you to subscribe and hit that notification bell so that you can finally breathe. So number one is, this is an interesting one. Pretend to be confused. What? Pretend to be confused or innocent about the whole thing. Let me give you an example of this. This just recently happened. I was talking to somebody, actually a member of my family, who was dealing with their ex narcissist in a custody situation. It was a situation where they wanted to have a different weekend, a different Sunday. They put it in the app. What the narcissist will do, they'll go back and forth with this thing, and then they'll go, "Oh, I didn't know what you meant." But they'll wait until it's like already at the time or past the time. And so they'll be like, "Oh, you meant that Sunday? Oh, I was confused. I didn't know what you meant by that. You meant this one? Okay. Well, if I had realized, then, it would have been okay. But I was confused about that. Now it's already too close to the time and we already have plans. So yeah, they act confused about it. They're not confused. They weren't confused at all. They play this act in front of the judge too, or at mediation. They pretend to be ignorant, they pretend to be confused when they know exactly what you're talking about. And you know that they know exactly what you're talking about. And they know too, but they put on a very good act about it. They get everybody else confused about it then at that point. They put so much into this whole thing that now everybody's all confused about it. And that's a mind game that a narcissist will play. If you guys know that I'm so right, put right in the comments. They either act confused and then they get everybody else so confused. And now the whole thing is all confused and they pretend to just be ignorant or confused about the whole thing. It's a major mind game that they play. And that's one that you don't hear about as much, but it is definitely one that they play for sure. It's like a definitely form of gaslighting is what it is. The second one that they play is it's deflect and attack. So what they do is they say, "Oh, that's not me. That wasn't me." But then they will attack other people. So they will attack often you or other people. It wasn't me. And I say it's like the little redhead, not I, not I. It was not me, but it was definitely Jim in accounting, or when I was had my law firm, it was always that the client didn't do what they were supposed to do and get this stuff in on time is what my employees would say to me, or it was somebody else didn't do what they were supposed to do, or it was some kind of something with one of the machines. Who knows? They had something going on at home, but if one of my employees wasn't doing something that they were supposed to do, it was always something else. They attack other things, right? So that's that. The next one is denial. They just straight up and deny. And then usually the denial will come with so they're denying whatever it is. They lie about I was supposed to do something or wasn't supposed to do something. And then they just again attack. They're being accused of something and it's instead of deflecting, it's a straight up denial. No, that wasn't me. Again, attacking whoever else instead of taking responsibility. It's always the not I, not I, said the pig, not I, said the cat, right? Because they're just total liars, right? If you agree with me, just put liars in the comments below, right? The next one is gaslighting. So the gaslighting is making you think that you're crazy. Whatever they will do to just make you think that you're crazy. We didn't have that conversation. That never happened. It didn't happen that way. It didn't happen the way that you think. You're making too much of this. Whatever they need to do to make you think that you're crazy. You're hearing things, you're delusional. All of that is a form of gaslighting. That's what gaslighting is. You're not remembering it the right way. You didn't hear it that way. You didn't see it that way. Whatever your senses are telling you, that's not correct. Whatever you're reading on your phone, that's not correct. That's what gaslighting is. The next one is kind of what I call another form of a mind game, which is kind of an interesting kind of mind game that you don't often hear about as well, that I call pattern interrupt. You start to have a conversation with a narcissist. You can't get very far. And this is a really interesting type of problem with a narcissist. Start to try to tell them something, like something that you want to talk to them about. It's a really serious conversation, suspicious text messages, or maybe it's a need that you have. I'm feeling anxious or I'm feeling concerned about something. It's whatever serious kind of conversation that you want to have with them. It's this pattern interrupt because they don't want to either hear it because they're being held to account for something, or they just don't want to have to deal with you. They don't have to deal with your needs. They don't want to have the conversation right now because they're not interested. They don't have to deal with having empathy or whatever. It's a kind of a form of projection and deflection in a way, but it's a different thing. It's more like, why are you bringing that up now? Or it's, why are you talking so loudly? You interrupted me. Oh, you just literally just attacked me. Why did you have to put it like that? And so, like, you can never quite get to the point of what it is that you want to bring up because they really don't want to hear it, even though they'll say, I want to hear it because of something else. Now you're talking loudly. Now you're interrupting. Why are you bringing that up now? Oh, I do want to hear it. But now you're attacking me. This might not be the best time. Well, you do know that I'm stressed. It's all like sort of this pattern interrupt, and it's all a mind game. If you guys are negotiating with a narcissist in any way, I have a 15-page ebook I highly recommend that you get. Really, really fantastic. You can get it at winmynegotiation.com. So go grab that, winmynegotiation.com. It will help you with that. And don't do this alone. Definitely don't do this alone. Join my free private Facebook group, Narcissist Negotiators with Rebecca Zung. These are the kinds of mind games that narcissists will play for sure.
So let's talk about the tactics that narcissists use to manipulate and punish their victims. So the first thing that they do to even be able to be put in a position of being able to manipulate and punish their victims is they love bomb. And I talk a lot more about love bombing in my video on love bombing, so check that out if you want. But really what it is they are extremely charismatic. One of the hallmarks of narcissists is they are very likable to the outside world. They're like the greatest salesmen on earth in a lot of ways. They are extremely intelligent. They are masters at reading people. So right from the beginning, they are reading you to see how they can best kind of worm their way into your lives and put themselves in a position to be able to do things like this. Because it's not like they come along being abusive. You would never have gotten into that relationship with them if they just came on that way. They come off seeming perfect for you. And even when you're not in a romantic relationship with these people, maybe it's just a business relationship, they still come off as if they were like a gift from heaven. Like you can't even believe how wonderful this person is. You know, if it's in business, they are the perfect business partner for you. They have all the right contacts. They can make all the right introductions. They can put you in incredible places, and you will elevate your career by being with them. So that's that. And you know, if it's a romantic relationship, obviously they're perfect for you in every way. They have the perfect job. They take care of you. They say how amazing you are. If you're a guy, you're the most handsome thing they've ever seen, a total Adonis. If you are a woman, then you're the most beautiful woman they've ever seen. They can't believe how perfect you are for them. They've never had another soulmate like this. They've never even been in love before until you came along. I mean, whatever they need to say in order to suck you in to be, and so that's really one of the first ways that they manipulate and punish to start being even in a position to manipulate and punish their victims is that love bomb stage. The next thing that you'll notice, and these are in no particular order at all, but one of the ways that they manipulate and punish their victims is by ghosting them. So now all of a sudden you can't get in touch with them. You know, they've been texting you for days on end, 20,000 times a day. And now when you want to call them out on something, or you want them for something, or you need them for something. Now all of a sudden they can't be found. They aren't there. And then when you question them on it, it was, oh, I was busy. How dare you? I'm working, or something like that. Or if you're calling them out on something that, maybe that, you are questioning them on, maybe they're speaking to somebody else that they shouldn't be, they've been particularly flirty or something like that, then, they'll start ghosting you. Like they'll just totally ignore you. And that's one of the ways that they punish their victims. And if you want to know more about ghosting, check out my 101 series, my Narcissism 101 series. I have tons of videos in there about all the different terminology that you need to know, and ghosting is one of those videos, so we'll make sure that we drop a link to that below as well. Another thing that they will try to do is they will start trying to make you jealous. Sometimes this is called triangulation. Sometimes they just are lining up flying monkeys to be against you, but they're talking to other people. They're trying to make it seem like they have a better relationship with other people, or these other people are better than you in some way. They're starting to put you down. They're starting this like little subtle devaluing starts. And if you want to know more about devaluing, check out my video on devaluing. But this is where the subtle devaluing starts, where you start to go, gosh, that didn't feel right. That didn't seem right. And a lot of times, especially with covert narcissists, and there's a whole bunch more on this in my video on the covert passive aggressive narcissists, who are my personal ones that I hate the most, because I've had to deal with them in my own life and fell prey to a couple of them in my own life, which I never will again because I know so much about narcissism now. But one of the things that they do is like these little subtle drip, drip, drip things that are so small that you like, do I even say anything about this? Or maybe I'm making too much of it. Maybe I'm just going crazy. It's oftentimes death by 1,000 cuts, where you just think, well, that didn't seem right. Or maybe they are just, talking to this person because they have a work relationship with them, or because they're trying to build a better relationship with our neighbors or our friends. And maybe I am making too much of it. Maybe I'm reading too much into it. Or maybe I'm being overly jealous, or, you start questioning yourself as to whether or not you're kind of blowing it out of proportion, because that's what they'll try to make it seem like you're doing, is blowing it out of proportion. And the next thing that they do to manipulate and punish their victims is gaslighting. And I have a whole video on gaslighting. And this is something that all narcissists do. And they do it, by the way, not just to you, but they kind of gaslight everybody. And that is, it's a huge way that they get along in the world. And that is like, even though you're looking at evidence and you see facts of something, they basically, and what conversation you had, they make it seem like that's not what you're seeing, that's not what you're looking at, that's not what you heard, that's not how it went down, you're remembering it wrong, you are taking something out of context, you are, even if you have an email or something. I mean, this is one of the things that happened in my relationship with one of the narcissists I was dealing with. It was, even though I had an email that said, this is what the conversation was, and mine was in a business setting, the person came back and was like, oh, we talked about this and you agreed to blah, blah, blah. And even though the email didn't even say that, but they just will say, well, but that's a conversation that we had, or whatever, you agreed to that. And of course it's something you would never agree to, but you start to slowly lose your mind. And that's what happens with gaslighting. You just are starting to slowly lose your mind. And if this is exactly what you have seen in your relationship with the narcissist, I want to see an exactly in the comments. Just give me the word exactly in the comments. And the next thing that they do is they go straight from degrading and insulting you to love bombing you again. And sometimes this is called hoovering. And it's especially, you see this like during the birth of the smear campaign, during the discard phase, whether you're discarding or they're discarding. And sometimes they start this long before the actual discard happens, because they're either expecting you to discard them eventually, or they're expecting to discard you eventually. But they go from this heinous beast of a string of insults and the gaslighting and the intimidation tactics and all of these manipulation tactics that, you know, I talked about, the passive aggressiveness, on and on and on, to, oh, but, you know, we've always been able to get along, we can work this out, or even if it's we can come to an agreement. You know, when you're in the middle of a divorce, all of a sudden they become your best friend. All of a sudden things are happening that are completely confusing you. And they do that again to manipulate you, because they want to get you away from your lawyer, or they want to get you away from your therapist, or they want to get you away from whoever it is that they think now has some other form of control over you. And why do they do that? First, yes, of course, they want you to do what they want you to do, but it all comes back to narcissistic supply, which is the holy grail for narcissists. Everything they do is driven by that narcissistic supply. It's like the rat in the maze that's going for that cheese. That's exactly what they're going for all the time. And one of the things I say about narcissists is, even though they are absolutely the most horrible people to deal with on the planet, they are actually very simple to understand. And once you get them, once you figure out that everything that they're doing is to keep as much narcissistic supply as they can possibly get, and you're just part of that scheme and you're part of that manipulation, and if you are in their zone of world and you even could possibly continue to be a source of supply, they're going to keep you around. So when you're going to negotiate with the narcissist, that's one of the things that you need to remember the most, is that everything that they do is driven by narcissistic supply. So this is by no means a comprehensive list of all of the things that they do to manipulate and punish their victims. I mean, certainly in a divorce setting, they do all kinds of things like weaponize the court system, use children as pawns, ignore court orders, ignore requests to produce, not produce financial documents, on and on and on. Intimidation, threats of violence, lying, stalking, all kinds of things I've seen in the divorce cases, which they do even in dissolution of business settings or dissolution of business partner settings. They act the same way that they do in regular life, only on steroids and 1,000 times worse.
I'll admit it, I'm that person. I'm the one the night before a birthday, an anniversary, or any kind of special occasion, I'm frantically searching the aisles for the right card, and one that doesn't seem kind of corny or cringeworthy. You know the struggle, right? But then I found Moonpig. It's a total game changer. They have tons of adorable, funny, even heartfelt designs ready to go, and you can even personalize them, which is super cool. You can even upload your favorite photos or tweak the text to make it uniquely you. And they'll even suggest clever messages if you're feeling stuck. Oh, and no more forgetting birthdays or scrambling for addresses. Moonpig lets you save everything in one place and even sends you reminders. Plus, they've got the opportunity to upload gift cards from all your favorite places like Sephora or Starbucks, so you can really nail that perfect gift vibe. Once you've designed your card, they'll even mail it for you, or if you want to hand deliver it, they'll send it to you with a cool envelope. So guess what? This is your chance. Your first card is totally free. Just use the code FREE and go to moonpig.com/US/negotiate. Seriously, stop stressing and start impressing. Make someone's day with Moonpig. Try it right now. I know it's kind of crazy, but there's actually a way that narcissists use positivity to gaslight you. And I didn't know this either, but there's actually a toxic type of positivity that is sort of backhanded, and it makes you end up feeling bad about yourself. And it is a form of gaslighting, but it's very, very hidden. And it's, even though it seems like it's a good thing, it's coming out of their mouth and it seems like a positive statement, it still invalidates you. So when you hear it, it doesn't make you feel better. And I know I've seen this because I have a friend who actually has, she's had to grieve the loss of a child, which was absolutely awful. She's one of my dearest friends. And she actually has talked about this with me at length. And so I've been, made familiar with it because of that. But other than that, I wouldn't have known about it or come to be familiarized with it. So, hi, I'm Rebecca Zung, and I am a globally recognized narcissist, negotiation expert, high conflict communications expert, attorney, and the author of a best-selling book, Slay the Bully: How to Negotiate with a Narcissist and Win. And in my book, I talk about gaslighting. And gaslighting is when your feelings are being invalidated, when what you're seeing isn't what you're seeing, what you're feeling isn't what you're feeling, what you're hearing isn't what you're hearing. It's when you are being made to feel like you're crazy, when you basically are being made to feel invisible, when you are being marginalized in some way. Yeah, but it's really worse than that. It's when you're really feeling like you're actually going crazy. And so the impact of it is that you start to feel voiceless, that you start to feel like you can't speak up. And I know for me, because of, things that I've had to work through in my past, when I've been in toxic relationships, I tend to have what is becomes known as leaky boundaries, where you end up allowing things to happen that you shouldn't allow to happen, and you don't end up speaking up when you should. You end up just, I'm just going to go along to get along because I don't want to end up having to deal with it. It's just easier for me to just do the things I shouldn't end up doing, or not saying anything when I should say something, because I don't want to have to deal with somebody being mad at me. I don't want to have to deal with, the thing. But that's one aspect of it. But this is something completely different. Toxic positivity shows up in a different way. And that's why it's so kind of backhanded. How this ends up showing up is more manipulative, quite frankly. But it's again backhanded. It's again a way to downplay your experiences, again, a way to maintain control. It's a seemingly positive phrase that makes you feel, if you're not aware of what's happening, like you don't matter. So, for example, you are down about something and you're upset about something and you're sharing your feelings. I'm upset. I'm sad. I am angry. And you're, instead of sitting in that with you and saying, I can see that. I can see why you would be upset about that. And hey, you don't want somebody to sit in that with you forever, but you at least want to say, you want somebody who's going to be supportive and say, I can see, how that would be upsetting to you. And I can get that. I can get how, I can feel that. I can feel that with you and sit in there with you for a little bit. And, I get why that would be something that would be, upsetting. If somebody has been emotionally abusive or whatever it is. But what this is somebody who just says, just be positive. Just be positive. I don't know why you're focusing on that. Just be positive. And instead of giving any sort of validation or acknowledgement of that emotion to that person, they don't give any acknowledgement to it at all. They say, just be positive. Let's just, move on. And what that does is, and yeah, while it seems harmless to some extent, it also silences you, and it doesn't validate you at all. It doesn't allow you to have any space there, and it gaslights you into sort of making you feel like your feelings are unwarranted in some way. And it's crucial to understand that sort of subtle manipulation. It's a subtle sort of manipulation. So it's sort of another one that they might do is sort of when you want to talk about something that might have happened with the relationship, and you're not trying to dwell on the relationship, this is, and there's a sort of a fine line between you kind of making them stew and holding their head to the fire all the time and also holding them accountable, right? But if you're truly just saying, hey, I want you to be held accountable and I want you to apologize to me and validate me. And then they just say, you know what, why are you bringing that up now? Why can't we just look at the future and let's just let the past be the past and let's just move on? Because that's another thing that a narcissist will do. Let's just let the future be the future. Let's just be positive. Let's just look on the bright side. Look on the bright side. That's another thing that they might say. An uplifting phrase that seems positive. Look on the bright side. It's an uplifting tool. It appears positive, right? It's a tool for gaslighting sometimes. They divert attention away from the real issues. And it makes it challenging for you to address core problems. Why are you focusing on the negative all the time? Let's just look on the bright side, because it doesn't allow you to have your feelings. Another one that they might say is good vibes only. Good vibes only. That's just great. But if it's being used to suppress any concerns that you might have, it's great. Okay. But then when they might have concerns, what happened to good vibes only? What happened to look on the bright side? Well, that's only, if it's one sided a lot of times, right? So you got to look and see what's happening there. Understanding and recognizing when this might be happening is a really, really important step to reclaiming your sense of well being and really being able to take a step back and take a step at understanding that this is a form of gaslighting, that it's toxic positivity because it's a form of invalidating you and invalidating your concerns and invalidating that you matter as a human being. And it's a form of diversion. It's a form of diversion away from the true issue, which is maybe again getting them to take responsibility for their actions, right? And by the way, if you haven't subscribed to this channel, make sure you do that now because we do give tips and resources on this sort of thing on a regular basis. So make sure you do that now because I want you to have the help and support that you need. And to that same vein, we have a supportive community which you can join, which is my free private Facebook group, Narcissist Negotiators. And if you need phrases for disarming narcissists, I have those too. Disarmthenarc.com, disarmthenarc.com. You can get that as well, disarmthenarc.com. And so make sure you grab those free phrases for disarming narcissists to help you, something that you can use, tips and tricks, something, a resource that you have at your fingertips also. So, it's good to have positivity, of course, and certainly you don't want to be a person who's sitting in the mud and in the doldrums or, being negative all the time. But, you also don't want to be having your feelings invalidated. Like another one that I've heard people say to people, especially, somebody who's lost somebody, is everything happens for a reason, and of course, this is, sometimes it's people that just don't know what to say. Sometimes people just maybe just say this without realizing what they're saying. But sometimes narcissists use it again to dismiss your pain and struggles. And sometimes they use it as a weapon to manipulate. So you just have to understand, is it somebody who's really trying to be harmless, or is it somebody who's trying to invalidate you, invalidate your feelings, invalidate what's happening? Right. And I would love to know what you guys have seen, what kinds of toxic positivity you might have experienced as well. Let me know in the comments. Just throw a comment below. Oh my God, I've seen it. And oh, I didn't even know that this existed, or I did. What kinds of other toxic positivity comments you guys have seen as well? Let me know in the comments. Let's get a conversation going about this. And, uh, you know, I want to know what your experiences have been. And by the way, if you have experienced this and you know others who have experienced this too, make sure you like this video, make sure you share it with others, share it with others in your community, because we want to make sure that we shut this down. We don't, this is something I didn't know that much about myself, and I want to stop this. I don't want this to keep perpetuating. That's why I have this channel. That's why I'm not stopping with what I'm doing. I know I'm one of the few lawyers who are out there who is doing this. That's why I wrote my book. That's why I have my SLAY programs. That's why I have my certification program. My certification program is certifying master high conflict coaches daily, all the time. We're graduating brand new coaches who are out there helping people. And so, if you're interested, you want to join us, you want to join the ranks, come join us, because we are actively out there helping. And I'm so glad that you were here. I want to take sort of a different stance today. Everybody, I think, knows about love bombing. And if you don't know about love bombing, that's sort of the one that everybody knows about, where They start off by being charming and wonderful, and they sweep you off your feet, and everybody knows that they're like, oh, amazing. I think that that's one of the ones that everybody thinks of when they think of a narcissist. But I want to sort of put it in a different stance today. And if you're new here, I'm Rebecca Zung. I am an attorney. I'm also a globally recognized narcissist negotiation expert, high conflict resolution attorney. I'm the best-selling author of Slay the Bully, How to Negotiate with a Narcissist and Win. And make sure you subscribe here if you're new. So traps the narcissist uses to manipulate and control you. I want to say they kind of sometimes start off as the hero or the victim. It's either they sweep in and, oh my gosh, where have you been? I'm going to take care of you, whether it's business or personal. I'm going to take care of everything for you. Everything that you've ever wanted in a human being, whatever your needs are, they're going to handle for you. So, I mean, I've seen this in something recently where I knew of a friend who was a time in her life where things weren't going well for her and family was sick and things were going on, and this person came along who happened to have means and was able to provide help for her and her family, and she didn't even ask for it, she didn't want it. This person came along and just offered friendship to her. It was a kindness. It seemed like it was a kindness at the time. And it was okay. Well, I don't really need this. I don't want it. She kept saying no, but it was a health crisis for her at the time and people who were close to her and her family. And the person had means beyond means. People in her family would have died without this person's help. And it just seemed like this person was being very kind. She ended up accepting the person's help. And then it became almost that she felt like she was starting to feel obligated to the person because the person was expecting phone calls or expecting more from her than she wanted to give, and more time, and wanted to be in her life a little bit more than she wanted. And she really didn't want to have to do that, but she started to feel like the person wanted more than she felt comfortable with. But the person continued to give help, and it became this uncomfortable situation for her. This is what they do. They trap you and they use it to manipulate you and control you. They come in as the hero. They look for vulnerabilities. They look for opportunities, and then they worm their way in that way. So that's the hero. The other one is the victim. I just recently saw this in another situation that I'm in where they come in, I'm downtrodden, life sucks for me, I can never get what I want, life isn't fair for me, and I think that you should help me. If you're a Christian or if you're a good person, then you'll help me. Or if you're my friend, then you'll help me. If you're not, then you're obviously not my friend or you're not a good person. They play upon your emotions. I guess I'll just be here by myself. And they use the fact that you're a good person, or the fact that if they know that you're a Christian or they know that you're a certain type of person, to manipulate you, to control you, to trap you, to manipulate you. They try to guilt you that way. And if you don't have good boundaries, then they'll manipulate you that way, especially like in families. I recently was coaching somebody where they were worried about not looking good to their brothers or sisters because they didn't want their father to make them look bad to other people. So they ended up doing a lot of things that they didn't want to have to do within the family. Okay, I'll take care of it. Yes, I'll do that for you. And running themselves ragged because they didn't want to look bad, ending up having leaky boundaries because of that. These are the other types of traps that narcissists use to manipulate you and control you. Yes, we often hear about the love bombing, we often hear about the hoovering and all that sort of thing. which is definitely a thing. But this is another sort of form. I think that people don't necessarily put it in these terms, and I wanted to make sure that you hear it in these terms because I think it's important that we understand that everything that they do is a manipulation. I got into dealing with narcissists because I wanted to understand them in the courtroom. I wanted to deal with them and beat them in the courtroom. So I started really researching them so that I could beat them strategically, tactically. Then, I ended up with a narcissistic business partner and a female, covert, passive aggressive, narcissistic business partner. And it literally almost took me to my knees. And I did not realize what I was dealing with until somebody said, "Hey, she's a female, covert, passive aggressive narcissist." And I was like, "What is that? Oh my gosh." And that's when I really started researching this stuff. And it is unbelievable because I thought a narcissist was a male misogynist bully who was a risk taker, who was somebody who threw their weight around, told everybody what to do, that type of a person who was boastful, bragging, impulsive. That's what I thought a narcissist was. I didn't realize that a narcissist could be a female. I kind of see it as almost like the clutching the pearls type sometimes. Oh my gosh, oh, how could you possibly accuse me of that? That sort of thing. Sometimes I always see it as the clean hands person, the person who is really good at plausible deniability, keeping themselves out of the fray. But just under the radar, there's this rage, this jealousy. They're very good at sort of the double meaning things, saying things that you're like, what is that they just said? And you're not quite sure how to respond because the way they say it is there's like a little bit of a tone. How did I just take that? What did I just hear? They forget things, details that you think, did they really forget that? Or am I imagining this? They oftentimes play the victim. And so other people feel sorry for them. They triangulate a lot, they smear people, and they also pit people against each other in a very under the radar way. How it ends up sort of manifesting itself is this passive aggression. I'm not mad when they're very obviously mad, or silent treatment, or withholding. They withhold information, subtle manipulation. Oh, I'll just do it myself, no problem. Or undermining. So they might say things like, are you sure you can handle that? It seems a little bit beyond your skills. Even more so. And by the way, if you're new here, I invite you to subscribe to this channel, hit that notification bell. But even more so, they say phrases that are designed to manipulate, designed to control, to confuse, to disorient you, to leave you feeling insecure, leave you feeling isolated. These little patterns, these little cuts, and almost like, oh, that's a really interesting choice of blouse. It's perfect for your style. Was that a compliment? I don't know if they just gave me a compliment or not. Or that's a really good steady job. It's perfect for someone like you. Again, you're not sure if they just gave you a compliment or not. It's like this underlying ulterior motive thing, and you're not sure if the person just gave you a compliment or not. Another thing that they might say is, you've lost so much weight and you look so much better than you did before. It's great how you're focusing on your hobbies. Not everybody needs a high powered job. It's like this double sort of thing where they're giving you a compliment, but they also are sort of putting you down at the same time. It's passive aggressive. If somebody questions them on it, they're like, what? I was just giving you a compliment. I really was just trying to give you a compliment. It seems benign at first glance, but it's really meant to undermine you. It's really meant to leave that seed of doubt and subtly belittle you. And so that as they're delivering it, they're just right on the border of that thing so that if somebody questions it, they can go, what? I was just giving you a compliment. What are you talking about? And they're very, very good at that. And they're also very good at smearing people in terms of care. So how that might look is, oh, I'm really worried about Susie being so late so often lately at work. It's so unlike her. I just hope everything's okay at home. It's just that it's really starting to affect the team's morale, and I hope everything's okay at home. That sort of thing. And they act innocent about it. It's that passive aggression, that underlying thing. And so that's the kind of thing that you see with a covert narcissist. They're not in your face going, hey, look how great I am. Hey, that Mark dude, he's a loser. They don't do that. They're much smarter about that. And if you guys have seen this, I would love to know. Go, oh my God, yes, in the comments. I want to know if you've seen this in the comments because it is the worst. It gives you this pit feeling in your stomach. You end up feeling sick. This is the kind of thing that makes you think that you're crazy. You feel like nobody else sees it because everybody else thinks that they're so nice. And so you don't want to say anything about it. And you wake up in the middle of the night, you're thinking about it, you're ruminating about it, and you're afraid to say anything because, oh my God, nobody else is going to believe you. But this is the kind of thing that they do. And their underlying strategy is to make you think they undermine you while everybody else thinks that they're so wonderful. They literally are just embedding these little belittling things in you to undermine you, to just to push you down a little bit, to get supply from you, to control you, to let you know that they are like making you feel less than, to assert themselves as making themselves feel superior over you. It's so maddening to say the least, but it's also over time really, really something that can do a number on you. This is why it is a type of narcissism that is something that you definitely cannot live with long term. It completely sucks your soul from you.